The Smiling Shepherd. In the summer of 1978, the world looked to the balcony of St. Peter's Basilica and saw a man whose very first gesture was not one of grandeur, but of warmth, a humble, almost shy smile that seemed to light the entire square. His name was Albino Luciani, newly elected as Pope John Paul I, and in that moment, the crowd sensed something different. There was no heavy tiara on his head, no grand display of authority. Instead, there was a shepherd's gentleness in his eyes and a joy that seemed to say, "The gospel is good news, and it is for you." For only 33 days, he would serve as the Bishop of Rome, one of the shortest papacies in history, and yet his kindness, humility, and infectious joy left an impact far beyond the span of his days. This is the story of the smiling Pope, the boy from the mountains who became the shepherd of the world, the man who believed that holiness could be wrapped in simplicity, and whose life still speaks to the heart of the Church today. Chapter 1. A Shepherd from the Mountains. Albino Luciani was born on October 17, 1912, in the small mountain village of Forno di Canale, in the Dolomites of northern Italy. The village was a cluster of stone houses pressed against the green slopes, where winters were long and harsh, and the people relied on hard work and one another to survive. His father, Giovanni, was a bricklayer who often worked far from home to provide for the family. His mother, Bortola, cared for the children with patience and faith, teaching them prayers before they could read, and reminding them that even the humblest home could be rich if filled with love. Albino grew up with little in the way of wealth, but much in the way of joy. He roamed the hills with his friends, attended the village school, and served at Mass with a devotion that caught the eye of the parish priest. Books fascinated him. He devoured every volume he could find, from saints' lives to geography and history. From an early age, there was a gentleness about him, a kindness that made him a natural confidant for friends and neighbors. But there was also a quiet determination. The mountains had taught him that every climb requires perseverance, and faith had taught him that every step has meaning. In 1923, when he was just 11, Albino entered the minor seminary. It was a difficult decision for a boy so young, but he carried with him the values his parents had given him: humility, honesty, and a deep love for the Church. The long road ahead would lead him far from Forno di Canale, but he would never forget the lessons of those rugged peaks, that true greatness often grows in small, hidden places. Chapter 2. The Bishop Who Listened. Albino Luciani's journey through the Church was marked by a rare gift: the ability to listen deeply and speak plainly. As he rose through the ranks, first as a parish priest, then as a teacher, and later as a bishop, he never lost the humility that made him approachable to all. In 1958, he was appointed Bishop of Vittorio Veneto, a diocese nestled in the mountains he loved so much. There, he became known not for grand speeches or formal ceremonies, but for his simple acts of care. He rode his bicycle through the narrow streets, greeting people by name, visiting the sick in their homes, and spending hours in conversation with anyone who sought his counsel. Luciani's sermons were filled with stories, parables, and anecdotes that brought the gospel to life in a way that was both easy to understand and deeply moving. He did not speak to impress scholars or theologians, but to touch the hearts of ordinary people. His warmth was contagious, and his laughter often echoed in the churches and plazas. When people asked him why he always smiled, he answered simply, "Because the Lord loves us, and that is reason enough to be joyful." His smile was a sign of hope, a promise that even in times of struggle, faith could bring light and peace. In 1969, Albino was named Patriarch of Venice, one of the most important positions in the Catholic Church. Yet even there, amid the grandeur of the city and its history, he remained the same humble shepherd, a man who listened before he spoke, who cared more for people than for prestige. His example inspired many, showing that leadership rooted in compassion and simplicity could transform not only a community, but the very soul of the Church. Chapter 3. The Unexpected Pope. In the summer of 1978, the world watched as the Catholic Church prepared for a conclave, a secret gathering of cardinals tasked with choosing a new pope. The death of Pope Paul VI had left a deep void, and the cardinals faced a daunting decision amid the turbulent times of the late 20th century. Albino Luciani, the humble patriarch of Venice, was not seen as a frontrunner. Known for his gentle nature and simple style, many thought he was too mild, too pastoral, too little a figure of power for the role of the Bishop of Rome. Yet, when the white smoke rose above the Sistine Chapel, signaling the election of a new pope, it was Albino's name that echoed through the square. To his own surprise, Albino accepted the call. He chose the name John Paul I, honoring the two recent popes who had shaped the modern church, John XXII, the reformer, and Paul VI, the builder of bridges. With a humble heart, he stepped onto the balcony of St. Peter's Basilica, greeted the crowd with a radiant smile, and made it clear that his papacy would be one of simplicity and joy. There was no grand tiara, no elaborate ceremonies. Instead, he wore a simple white cassock and a small, modest mitre, symbols of a pope who wanted to be close to his people, not above them. His first words to the world were filled with warmth and hope, inspiring millions who longed for a church that was more merciful, more human, more loving. In those first moments, John Paul I's smile became a beacon, a promise that the church could be a place of light, even in dark times. Though many wondered what this gentle man might accomplish, no one could foresee how deeply his brief but bright papacy would touch hearts around the globe. Chapter 4: 33 Days of Light. Pope John Paul I's reign was brief, lasting only 33 days, but in that short time, he shone with a rare and radiant light. His message was simple yet profound. The church must be a place of mercy, humility, and joy. He spoke often about the importance of love, not just as a distant ideal, but as a daily practice. He encouraged the faithful to see God's kindness reflected in every act of compassion, and he reminded the world that even small gestures could bring great grace. John Paul I avoided pomp and ceremony. He refused the royal we often used by popes, saying instead, "I am only me." This humility endeared him to millions, making him feel like a true shepherd rather than a distant monarch. During his brief papacy, he reached out to the poor and the marginalized, urging the church to serve those in need rather than seek power. His sermons were filled with stories and parables, told with a warmth that touched the heart and brought the gospel to life. Though his time on the throne was short, John Paul I left behind a legacy of hope, a reminder that true leadership is rooted in love, that joy is a reflection of faith, and that even the gentlest voices can move mountains. Chapter 5: A Smile That Endures. On the morning of September 28, 1978, the world awoke to the heartbreaking news. Pope John Paul I had passed away in his sleep. His sudden death shocked millions, leaving a church and a world mourning the loss of a gentle shepherd who had brought so much light in so little time. Yet, even in death, his smile remained a powerful symbol, a beacon of hope, humility, and faith. People remembered how he greeted the world with warmth, how he listened with kindness, and how he spoke of God's mercy with such joy. In the decades that followed, John Paul I's example continued to inspire. His brief papacy reminded the church that holiness is found not in grandeur or power, but in love and simplicity. His legacy lives on in the hearts of those who seek a faith filled with joy and mercy. In 2022, Pope Francis beatified him, officially recognizing Albino Luciani as Blessed John Paul I, a man whose smile, like a gentle light, continues to shine across the world. His story teaches us that even the shortest life, when lived with love and humility, can leave an eternal mark. The smiling Pope's joy remains a call to all of us, to serve with kindness, to lead with heart, and to remember that the gospel is always good news. Thank you for being part of our journey and for following our channel. Your support inspires us to share stories that uplift and inspire. Stay with us for more tales of faith and courage.